Hi, everybody. Welcome to the post Eclipse Joe and Joe weather show with Joe Rayo on my left, who's had a very, very long and hard week. I'm Joe Chaffee. And okay, Mr. Rayo, go ahead. How was your
Go ahead and
how
watch.
how was your morning, this Mr. Rayo?
Uh, you know what? It harkened some of nostalgia because my wife and I we met at a private weather forecasting service in Queens many years ago, and then after we got married, we started going into work together, and that meant getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to get into work. And that's exactly what we did this morning. The alarm went off just after 3 a.m. in order for us to get out to meet with Lonnie Quinn at the Campo Beach area just outside of Westport, Connecticut, where they were doing live shots for CBS Channel 2. But we woke up at 3, we got dressed, we washed up and everything else. And as we're heading out to the car, I said, "It's just like the old days, isn't it? It's just like all those years." The only difference was that when we were doing that, we were in our 20s. And now, all these years later, we're in our 60s. And let me tell you, it's a heck of a lot more difficult to do it in your 60s as opposed. Well, you did it too, Joe. I mean, in your 20s.
That's why
Crazy.
exactly, and that's why I refuse. I just will not do it. So, for those of just to refresh everybody, or maybe if you weren't on last night, so Joe was in Westport, Connecticut, with Lonnie Quinn from WCBS TV Channel 2. He does the weather there in New York City. And they put on a show this morning, which we'd love to show you, but somebody didn't bring a video. We don't have a video.
Well, we didn't.
Go
Well,
ahead.
we don't. If you want to go on if you want to see like a clip of what I did with Lonnie, and we were, and I congratulate CBS. They really what they did was they dedicated most of their morning newscast from 5 o'clock to 6:30 when the eclipse came to an end to the eclipse, and they called in everybody, all four of their regular weathercasters: Elise Finch, Lonnie, of course, John Elliott, and Vanessa Murdoch. The four of them were there. They had newscasters or reporters all around the tri-state area with cameras taking various shots. And I got to tell you something, Joe. It was very interesting. Before the sun came up this morning as that wonderful crescent image, for about a half an hour before, on and off, we were seeing sun pillars, an effect of, I guess, atmospheric refraction, where from the point where the sun is below the horizon, we saw like a pillar of light stretching up for about 10 or 15 degrees from the horizon. And it was quite amazing. And again, the funny thing about it was, I guess it was because of the cloud cover, it would come and go. And in fact, at one point, it was almost like there was a mock sun. There was a blob of orange, fuzzy orange, that was hanging right above the sunrise point. And then out of that, if you watch, carefully enough, that blob evolved into, again, a pillar. So there was all kinds of great stuff that we saw. And the funny thing about the eclipse was everybody was there armed with their special glasses to watch. The glasses allow you to see the eclipse safely because they're dark and they attenuate the light of the sun and knock out the UV and ultra and infrared rays of the sun. But when the sun came up, you couldn't use the glasses because there was enough haze to diminish the sun's light so that if you looked with the glasses, you couldn't see anything. The sun was not bright enough yet to use the glasses. But yet, at the same time, if you tried to look at the sun, if you tried to look at it directly with your eye, the
Right.
haze wasn't quite thick enough for you to see it clearly unless you squinted with your eyes. But we
Right.
did see, if you squinted initially, you saw that those crab claws, as they were being promoted as, coming up straight up as the sun was rising, and then as you see here in the picture that Joe put on the screen here,
And
the crescent,
which by the
the
way,
cusp,
was
the
taken
cusp
by
swung around to the left.
right. The pictures that I have here are from Christina Pedia, who took them on Long Island. She's on the chat board right now. Go ahead. I just wanted to give her credit. Thank you, Christina. Christina Pedia.
Yeah. I think everybody in the tri-state area, fortunately or thankfully, because I was concerned um, that let's say New York and points south would get wiped out because of cloud cover. I said, that maybe there might be a case where the cloud line was going to undulate, but really, as we saw like late last night with that cold front, it came straight on through with the cloud line, passed through the New York metropolitan area, and continued southward for a little ways. I think they might have even seen it as far south as Seaside Heights in New Jersey. But we all had basically the same sky at sunrise, which was, black, lacy stratus clouds, and the sun was coming up through those clouds. And there was also a bit of haze, which, again, at first precluded you using the glasses. But as the sun got higher and brighter, then you started to then you had to use those dark glasses. So it was really a cool
I
sight.
love this shot, by the way. It'll be coming up in a second with the clouds in the background.
Right. That we all seem to have that. Long Island, New Jersey, up in the Hudson Valley, Connecticut. Yeah, that sometimes, and Lonnie Quinn brought this up. He said, we all hope for clear weather, but sometimes the clouds actually add to the effect. And that picture right there gives you an idea of how eerie it was initially when it came up. And I got to tell you, nobody was happier than yours truly, Joe, at 3:30 as Bernardo was still inside. I thought I'd take a quick glance outside. So I opened up the front door of our house, stepped out onto the front step, looked up, and the sky was just filled with stars. And I looked up, and I'm sure I must have broken into a big smile on my face because I said, "We got it. That's it. No need to worry about." And you want to know something else that's very funny? You want to know something else? It just goes to show. It just goes to show you. I don't, and I know you don't, and probably everybody on the chat board don't. You don't listen to radio at 3 or 4 in the morning or whatever. But as we were driving to the beach in Westport, I'm listening to CBS 880, 1010 Winds, and they got. I presume these were live hits, and these. I think one guy, Carl Babinski. I'm driving. The sky is perfectly clear. Mm-hmm. A couple little wisps of cloud here and there.
I know where this is going.
And here's what. And you know what he's saying? He says, well, we still have a chance for a couple of showers around for a little while longer. And I'm saying, what are you looking at?
From what? There was nothing. What? There was nothing there. Oh my God. There was nothing.
There was nothing at that hour. At that hour, why are you still saying a chance for a few showers and also some lingering clouds? They're obviously they mailed that forecast in this morning. I guess at that early hour they figure, well, what the heck?
Yeah, they pre-tape. They pre-tape a bunch of tapes probably around 10 or 11 o'clock. They didn't have I doubt if they had any if it was live. But too funny, too funny. I love this shot, by the way. This is a really nice shot. I also have one of my high school buddies. Seems like I'm dealing with my high school buddies lately a lot. And that's a reference to the fact that I'm halfway through the book, Under the Weather, of which I am a primary character in a really vicious, vile murder mystery. But let me see if I can find. Let me get my friend Harry's pictures, because he took some shots in and around New York City, and they were good shots too. So give me a moment.
And I have to feel bad. I have to feel bad for our friend on the chat board. I don't know if he's here tonight. And he's
Mr. Reuben Fairchild. He's here.
No, not Mr. Reuben Fairchild. By the way, I told I saw that you mentioned that you were going to take off for a couple of weeks. If
a couple of days, a couple of days.
A couple of days. I thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. Whether a couple of weeks or a couple of days, you were asking him for permission to take off.
Correct.
He said, if that's okay with you, Mr. Fairchild. No, I'm referring to my friend Evan Zucker, who lives in San Diego, and he wanted to fly either to New York or to somewhere in the northern part of Michigan. He chose the latter. He went to a place I think called Paradise Valley in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I told Evan yesterday, because he was worried about clouds coming down from the north, and I said, look, if you see the clouds coming, again, not forecasting, but nowcasting. Watch the satellite picture. If you see the clouds coming, jump in your car. There was an interstate, I-75, and I said, just go south on I-75 to get out of the way of the clouds. But he decided he was going to stay in Paradise Valley or whatever. and he got skunked. So that's what
the
happens when you don't stay mobile.
my friend Harry. I mean, this almost looks like a watercolor painting. It's just he took some shots of the sky surrounding what was going on, and you mentioned about the fact that when we were talking about this over the last couple of weeks with a little haze in the air and a few clouds, you could get some weird colors, and indeed, and those are juxtaposed against the blue in the background where the sky's clear. I mean, these are some very interesting shots. Here's another one. These were all taken from around from New York City. I don't know exactly where he was standing, but he was obviously near the water. But you could just see the sun there trying to come up over the horizon.
Look at that! Yeah, look at that!
Isn't that
wow,
great?
That's
Harry McMaster.
That was.
Who's a big cheese, by the way, in the New York NYFD, in the New York Fire Department. These are great shots. Look at that. That's a terrific shot.
That's great. That's great. And the funny thing is, we had those clouds, and I was saying to myself, well, we're not gonna see the cusps of the crescent because of the cloud cover and the positioning. And then, sure enough, up from behind the clouds were the two tips of the crescent coming up, and I'm just saying, like, wow, look at that, wow. And even Renata has been on a number of eclipse adventures with me, my faithful companion, and she said tonight at dinner, she says, in thinking about it, of all the eclipses that we've seen, this one was one of the more picturesque ones. It wasn't even a total eclipse, which really is one of the great shows that you'll ever see in your life. But still, this had a lot going for it with the low sun, the crescent phase. I was a little surprised. I actually thought we would see.
Look at this shot with the grass, near the shore with the grass, and look at the colors around the sun. He took it with his iPhone.
A lot of people do that these days. I mean, when I think of my younger days, Joe, when I used to, first I'd go to the
when you took out your Kodak Brownie.
Well, you look for the right kind of film, and then what you do is if you get like a roll of 36, and then you take a bunch of pictures, you of different exposures or different apertures, you're bracketing your exposure. You throw away about 3/4 of what you've shot, and look for the one that looks good. And now here are people with their iPhone, like click. My daughter took a picture of the moon a few years ago through the eye. She just took the iPhone, stuck it up against the eyepiece, and she came up with a picture which I would have died for, when I was her age. But that's it. That's technology. It's amazing. Anyway, enough with the eclipse.
Okay.
Now let's start talking about the weather and the upcoming weekend.
Yes. Well, in the scope of things, just looking, I looked through a lot of the guidance today. I'm sure you were busy, so I don't know whether you got to see anything or not. But I have to tell you something. There's one of the maps tonight that I'm going to show. All I can say about it is it's for the winter weather lovers. It's too bad it's not January, because we're going into mid-June. The heat that we've just had, which, by the way, some places did 6 days in a row of 90 plus. That's a pretty impressive stretch for the early part of June. And
you want to know one of those places? Up here, we have a weather station. Renata just sent a few pictures to your phone.
On my guess, she texted them to me, or she texted them to me.
I guess.
Yeah, I can't
send it to your phone.
I know, but I can't translate it to my phone, to my laptop right now.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
I'll have to do it another time.
But what you were saying about the string of 90-degree days up here on my Davis weather station, which is fairly accurate, we had, I think, 5 consecutive days of, it wasn't extreme. Okay, there was one day we hit 94, but the other days were like 90, 91. It was crazy. And, I think I mentioned here last week, I said, I remember June of 1988 and June of 1999, starting off before the summer officially began, starting off like this with strings of 5 and 6 days straight of 90-degree temperatures. And that eventually led to numerous 90-degree days in both of those summers. So I'm hoping we don't go through that this upcoming summer season.
Well, a few places got to 96 or 7, and we've gone Julys and Augusts and not got anywhere near that number. So all sorts of odd things. I can tell you this: looking at the pattern in the eastern part of the United States, but particularly in the Mid-Atlantic and for the Northeast, over the next 10 days, we're going to be over that period. We're going to be cooler than average. Most
Right.
of the time, the humidity is going to be subdued. You might have the odd because we've got three cold fronts coming through, and the problem is that there's really no time ahead of any of these cold fronts to warm things up. Let's bring up a couple. Let's start off with what's going on tonight. And by the way, just to go back to the eclipse, as it turned out, it's a good thing that we didn't overplay the clouds. Not that I was tempted to at all. We were just, you were just a little bit nervous, but the shallowness of the cold front allowed the dry air to, at least at the levels that mattered, to make it all the way down into Maryland. So there was most of the folks in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England down to Maryland and Delaware wound up with clear enough skies to actually see the eclipse. So that was a big plus. In the meantime, tonight,
In fact, there was a wonderful picture of of about a half covered sun, and it was right above the U.S. Capitol, which so it's the second time. In a way, this is a figurative speaking or whatever. But in a way, this was the second time that the Capitol had to deal with an eclipse. The first, of course, was on the 6th day of this year.
Yes.
But anyway.
right.
Hey, by the way, Joe.
yes.
By the way, again, I don't want to be political about anything here, but did you hear that there was a gentleman from Texas, a politician from Texas? He was talking about global warming and ways that we could try to fix the atmosphere and try to, and in his mind, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. This is new to me. I know somebody predicted the end of the world today.
No.
Clearly
No.
he was slightly
This is true.
off.
I wish that this was a joke,
Yeah.
but it was not. I don't know what the gentleman, he was a Republican in Texas, and I don't know what he was, a congressman or a state senator or whatever like that. But he actually said, why can't the folks at NASA change the orbit of the moon? And that may be able to help the situation regarding global warming. I swear to you.
Would you like them to take a game console and move the lever around to move? Is that what?
And you should have seen the person who was interviewing him, so some woman, when he said that, there was like a long pause. I'll send you the video. It's on YouTube. There was like a long pause, and all she could say was, "Well, I don't think anybody's considered that before." But the thing was that was frightening is that he was serious. He thought NASA could move the moon out into a different orbit.
Is there an app for that? I mean, maybe you could do it on your maybe you could do it on your phone. I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Well, be that as it may. All right,
Yes.
so let's
Back to the weather.
Let's sashay along to the U.S. satellite, which is still have all these clouds to our south and across Virginia, North Carolina, where we've seen some hefty showers and some thunderstorms, and a couple of them have hit severe levels, and that moisture is moving to the east. Now, it would seem, you look at this, and a lot of this is moving up to the northeast, but it's going to hit a wall. We've got this nice dry cutout here in the northeast, and a high is going to start building in. So that's going to help to suppress all of this. The only thing is, Joe, I think tomorrow we're probably going to have, at the very least, we're going to have high clouds here from the moisture to the south, because there will be rain in Virginia. Rain may actually, for a brief time, maybe make it, I thought maybe could make it up into southern Pennsylvania and maybe to about central New Jersey to about 195. For just for a short period of time that it would get that far north. So I think we're going to have more clouds around tomorrow, and that's going to keep temperatures probably on the cool side, 60s at the coast, and maybe only low 70s in inland areas.
Yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right about the extended outlook because I just checked on the CPC Climate Prediction Center site, and they've got cooler than normal for the 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 days, and also for the 6 to 10, they have a large mass of well below normal dry conditions. So it looks like it's going to be the converse, the antithesis of what we went through over this past week. The temperatures are going to be down, and instead of those sudden downbursts of or downpours, if you will, of showery rains, it looks like we're going to be going through a spell of nice dry weather.
Yep.
It may be at a semblance of what I mentioned about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, what I call the Garden of Eden summer, where you gave your air conditioners a rest and it was nice and dry, and we could certainly use something like that.
Let me just really quick, I just want to thank the chairman, Scott Briller, for hitting Super Chat tonight. He says, Mr. Rayo, thank you for the incredible insight and knowledge about the eclipse. We're eternally grateful for your expertise. And we are eternally grateful for your expertise. I would have been more eternally grateful if you had gotten a video, but that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, radar tonight, obviously there's nothing going on throughout the Northeast and the northern part of the Mid-Atlantic, but you can see how the showers are kind of arcing from Ohio across southwest PA, and then they run down into Maryland, eastern Virginia, and down into North Carolina. Sort of these circular bands around this broad upper trough that is swinging in from the west, and then elsewhere you see also some pop-up showers and thunderstorms scattered around the southeast and the Tennessee Valley. Severe weather tonight is going to be up in the Dakotas, and we've already have a couple of tornado warnings and several severe thunderstorm warnings up. In fact, Joe, a moderate risk of severe weather is indicated here. SPC talking about scattered thunderstorms here, but they say all severe hazards are possible, including very large hail, wind gusts over 70, and a few tornadoes. And indeed, there's a working tornado watch now at 7:53 Eastern time in western North Dakota. They got a moderate risk and a very large area of enhanced risk that extends down into Nebraska. You could see the other small little marginal risks area, one that's actually in eastern North Carolina from the interior, east central North Carolina, and then running right down to the coastline. And also another small area of marginal risk in parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, and northeast Louisiana. Severe weather kind of takes a break, though, after today. For tomorrow, a small marginal risk area in eastern Kansas, western Missouri, northern Oklahoma, southeastern Nebraska. And on day 3, we are now into the period which covers Saturday to Sunday, a small area of marginal risk in northeastern New Mexico, southeastern Colorado, and days 4 through 8, we are looking at predictability 2 lows for each day in the 4 to 8 day time frame. And by the way, Joe, it's worth mentioning, speaking of Colorado, the Hoover Dam is at its lowest level on record, and it's forecast to actually go lower, and it may not bottom until the month of November, which is, I mean, I saw a shot of it today on one of the newscasts, and it was mind-boggling to see how high the Hoover Dam is and how low the water is. And you know, it is the drought conditions in that part of the country are quite serious indeed, and of course we are now in the dry season there, so. It's hard to imagine how they're going to get much, if any, rain. I remember Ruthless Goat, who's on the chat board sometimes, and he lives up in Loveland, Colorado, says that the vast majority of the precip, where he is, north of Denver, but the vast majority of the precip is mostly snow. They don't really get a whole lot of rain there. So when the winters are important because a lot of that snow melt goes in to feed the river, the Colorado River. But I'm a little surprised considering how much, there were fair amounts of snowfall that occurred. I mean, there was above normal snowfall through much of that region and on up into the northern Rockies. I'm not quite sure why it's not hasn't translated to raise the water levels. That's for somebody who lives out there that can explain all this. That's above my pay grade.
Now, you said this was Hoover Dam,
Yes.
because Renata and I, we went. Let's see, this was in 2012. We visited Boulder Dam,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty impressive. We were outside of the Las Vegas area, and and these man-made structures are absolutely spectacular. I mean, if anybody ever goes out west, you really ought to check these things out, both Hoover and Boulder Dam, if you're ever in the vicinity of one or both. It's absolutely amazing.
Well,
Of course, Boulder Dam, I think they use that to electrify parts of the desert Southwest, by controlling the flow of the water there.
Well, same here. The Tennessee Valley Authority during the Depression, they built a dozen dams, and I've got 4 of them actually, within 20-minute driving distance, and they are, they're not to the level of the Hoover Dam or the Boulder Dam, but they are certainly impressive by their own right. So. I was actually quite surprised. I didn't realize that they did that to a lot of the waterways here, and they use it to.
Now wait a minute. Now David Schwartz on the chat board says Boulder Dam is Hoover Dam, but you said Hoover Dam. You were talking about Colorado, and yet.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant the Hoover Dam is low. It's the Colorado River going into the Hoover Dam is at its lowest level. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. I may have misspoken. Right. Anyway.
Okay.
Precip wise. No rain anywhere in the Southwest. The coastal Pacific Northwest is going to be getting up to a couple of inches of rain. Eastern North Carolina, Eastern Virginia, you can see the rainfall amounts here. Most of this is going to come tomorrow into tomorrow night, with rainfall amounts up to an inch, extending further north and west. Now, some of this is going on right now with the thunderstorms that are around, so not all of this is going to fall during the day tomorrow. And just speaking of rainfall, I have the 7-day rainfall over the eastern U.S., and add up all the thunderstorms that we've had between Tuesday and Wednesday. And of course, this goes actually back to last Thursday. That's Thursday evening. So as we can throw in what happened last Friday. But the rainfall's actually been fairly substantial across parts of New Jersey, up through upstate New York, into Vermont and New Hampshire, also in southeast PA, down into Maryland. And then it gets, the amounts are much higher, 5 inches or more in eastern North Carolina. And you can see the big amounts too in northern Mississippi. Some areas getting over 10 inches of rain in the last 7 days in parts of northern Mississippi back through Arkansas and also into parts of Louisiana and Alabama. So the rainfall has been substantial up into the Ohio Valley, two inches as you go further north into Kentucky, 2 to 3 inches up in Kentucky and up into parts of Ohio. And then the amounts kind of slacken off after that. So it's been a relatively productive rainfall period here in the eastern part of the United States. Certainly, most areas east of the Mississippi, also up in the northern plains, Montana, picking up some areas picking up 1 inch to 2 inches of rain, and then back up into parts of Idaho. And of course, you see other places how dry it has been. So I just wanted to kind of show that map. Now let's go to I'm going to go to the European 240 hour. Okay. And take a look at this. Take a look at this upper air, and I'm going to bring up I drew on it just to save time. So take a look at this upper air. Now this is for Father's Day next Sunday. Now you tell me on June 20th, Joe, to see the amplitude like this at this time of year is. It's hard for me to go through memory. I imagine this must have happened before, but I can tell you this: it doesn't happen very often that you get an upper air pattern like this on the 20th of June.
Yeah, well, look at the arrow that's on the left side of your red vertical line. I mean, the air is coming right from, as our good friend Alan Casper used to like to say sometimes on when he was at Channel 2, the air is coming straight from Great Slave Lake. You can smell the Canadian pines. My
Yeah.
goodness. But he usually said that, he would usually say that, let's say in April or May or September, or October. You're right. I don't remember him saying it in June or July, usually a hot and steamy and sticky month. That's an amazing thing to see, that type of a setup at this time of the year. Very anomalous.
Right. Now, this time of year, air masses up there are not like air masses that come down in the wintertime, obviously. You have you have sun most of the time. The air is chilly, but it's not winter. Obviously, it's not winter cold, and of course, those air masses do tend to modify as they move down to the southeast. But this is a very, very cool looking weather pattern that is setting up. And I also I looped the. Now this is the 5,000 foot level, so it's probably going to be a little bit different as far as the surface is concerned. But you can see what happens here in the east. Starting from, I'll wait till gets to the first frame, which is right now. That's the first frame. So you cold front, and there's actually another front in between all that. So we've got like 3 cold fronts that are going to be coming through. But the bottom line is that's all cool air. It can't get hot in the pattern that I just showed you. It just simply cannot get hot. And here in the east, Joe, it's trough after trough after trough, just dropping into the eastern part of the U.S. and a strong ridge that builds up the Rockies from New Mexico and Colorado all the way northward. This is not a summertime upper air pattern for the eastern part of the U.S.
No, it's not. It is most definitely not. And now you see why the long-range forecasters at the Climate Prediction Center are indeed showing much of the eastern third of the country below normal for the next week or two. It's that type of a pattern. You can't warm up, and the big ridge, as you see building over the western United States, the last thing that those people over the west need is a huge ridge of high pressure, which would preclude any kind of precipitation pattern. They're just bone dry out in the west.
I'm going to switch. I got the GFS up. I wanted to switch over to the radar view because I think that's more relevant. Sometimes when you look at that, the map that has the actual precip amounts, it makes you think it's raining all over the place, and in reality, it doesn't really reflect what's going on the radar. Plus, for whatever reason, sometimes those maps generate rainfall, and then you look at the radar and you ask yourself, well, how? And you got to something happens in between because these are in 6-hour increments. So it's just I think it's just simpler to look at these radar views in 6-hour increments. And you can see for tonight and to Friday, the rain that starts to gel up here is this upper trough, with this weak trough that's come out of Texas. It took 2 to 3 days for it to get far enough east. Low pressure forms there in Virginia and North Carolina. The rain pushes up. As I said, I'm thinking maybe it gets into southern Pennsylvania. It gets into southern New Jersey for a little while tomorrow. It should not make it further north than that. But the rains will be heavy from there south into North Carolina. And then the low is going to move out to the east. And of course, we've got all this sort of this dry air in eastern Canada that's pinned down to the coast, gets dragged southward as that low moves out. There's also a little bit of an upper trough that comes through Saturday morning. I threw in the mention that there could be a brief shower on Long Island Saturday morning. And you can see it at the GFS has a couple of showers there over eastern Massachusetts and coastal Maine. That's from this little upper trough that goes by. I think the weekend, to me, much of the time it should be okay. It's going to be hard to warm up on Saturday because we're going to have a wind off the ocean, but I'm thinking we should be no worse than partly sunny. And then Sunday, we've got the first of 3 cold fronts. Maybe a shower or a thunderstorm Sunday evening as the front goes by. Then another front that comes through on Monday with another chance for a shower or thunderstorm Monday evening. And then there's a third front that comes through Tuesday evening. So we'll throw in another chance for a shower or storm. And it's behind this run of the GFS. It's something weird where it made a cutoff low. And tries to form another low on the coast there and brings it up to Long Island during the day on Wednesday. I just ignored that because I'm thinking that's not going to be on the next run. I mean, how many times do you see a deepening low coming up the coast in the middle of June?
In June.
Yeah,
in June.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
And then it's just going to be cool and dry, and then another front. Now, here's the one chance I think maybe on Friday and Saturday of next week, ahead of whatever the next cold front that comes through next Saturday, that you could have a chance on that day where it tries to warm up a little bit. But the other problem here is, Joe, is that it can't get humid because there's no time. These fronts are coming one after another. You don't have time to get into a return flow of very warm, humid air. You have maybe 24 hours, and that's not going to cut it.
And indeed, they're reinforcing shots. One comes through, you get the cool air. Then before it has a chance to moderate, here comes a second front to reinforce the cool air, and indeed, then after that, a third front. So yeah, as long as you keep having those, and they're probably moving along, kind of like the spokes of energy that are whirling around the main upper disturbance to our north and east. There you go. That's going to keep you cool, and it looks like we're going to be in that pattern again for at least the next week or two.
And as far as the tropics are concerned, that area in the Southwest Caribbean is now not even being talked about. As the Hurricane Center, no tropical cyclones over the next 5 days. And the models are still trying to spin something up after day 7 in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. But until I see it in the day 4, inside the day 5, the 5-day time frame, I'm not going to waste time talking about it. There's nothing there that, considering what's going on with the upper air in the east, it sort of leaves me wondering whether there's going to be any kind of room for something to form down in the Southwest Gulf. But that's a problem for another day. I'm not worried about it now. So
now, since you chided me on not having a video of the eclipse, I do have something to show you of the eclipse, and if you allow me to show it, I don't think I have the ability of sharing the screen.
Sure, but give me before you do that, just real quick, because Christinapedia just sent me one more shot that she found on her camera, and
okay,
hang on, I'm getting it as we speak. And that's a shot of the. This is a beautiful shot. You'll see it come up in a second. Absolutely gorgeous shot of the eclipse with the clouds and the very interesting colors in the background. It almost looks like a painting, for God's sake.
Right, and it almost looks like something the late Bob Ross would have painted.
Yes,
he probably. Use one of the, I don't know what kind of crimson red or whatever, or that he would probably use a lot of that, and the oranges too. It really does look beautiful, and congratulations for her to get that shot. It's amazing.
Thank you, Christinapedia. You've got the screen, so go ahead and do what you got to do.
All right. Well, this is not my shot, but I thought I'd show this. This I think was a really a shot of the eclipse, but also with a very iconic image in it. Take a look at that.
Oh wow! Nice.
I don't know where this was shot. I'm going to make the assumption it may have. Well, I don't know. Could it have been? It had to be somewhere in New Jersey, I guess. And it shot with one of those long telephoto lenses.
Well, maybe from Jersey City, because where my daughter lived in Jersey City was right by the water there, and she had a perfect view of the Statue of Liberty. You could almost reach out and touch it. It was that close.
They ought to do now with this image. They ought to do a Liberty Mutual commercial, and of course, it would end with Liberty, 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 Liberty.
Oh, listen, those commercials are awful. With the emu.
But anyway, that's it's the emu.
Okay, so let's do Briller Jeopardy. I don't know who has it. I think I did it. You did it last to me, so maybe I have it for you. So let me hang on. I gotta find it. Oh no, he sent you another. This was on Monday. Okay, so we don't actually. I don't have one, and maybe you don't have one because the one he sent you on Monday we did on Tuesday, and you weren't here yesterday. Which, by the way, was a technical. The show was a technical disaster without you. I had a meltdown about 10 minutes before, technically speaking, 10 minutes before the show, and I had to do it without maps for about 20 minutes until I remembered how to get the maps back. So anyhow, that's
lovely.
yeah. But we somehow
I'm never going to leave. I'm never going to leave you again, Joe.
okay.
Which actually, in a way, is true because for the most part, I still have library talks, but I think the talks that I have, we don't have to worry about changing our normal 7:30 schedule. But he said that prematurely, so we'll see how this all ends
Right.
up.
Um,
So
yeah, no Briller Jeopardy tonight. The chairman says we'll just wait till Sunday. Yeah. So you're not going to leave me for you're not going to leave me for Terrence Cardinal Quinn. By the way,
no, I'm not going to.
speaking of Terrence Cardinal Quinn, I heard from Terrence Cardinal Fitzgerald.
Yes.
I did.
What did Mr. Fitzgerald have to say?
He's doing fine. He just sent me a quick message. He says he's going to call me and just we'll chit chat away. But it was nice that he shot a message to me, so that was a good thing. I thought I'd mention.
I'm wondering. I see him periodically on weekends at News 12, and I'm saying to myself, my goodness, I hope he's doing it from the Fitzgerald abode in Dutchess County, because I can't possibly see, somebody he's driving, let's say, all the way down from Dutchess to Woodbury, Long Island. That's a heck of a haul.
When I caught him on somebody else's television, because I would never turn it on because I don't watch anybody. It looked to me like he was doing it from his home. So, that's a long drive. Real quick, Joe. Bill Rogers wants to know.
Yes.
Wants to ask you. He thought you could not take photos of the eclipse without a special filter.
Well, I mean, you need the filter more often than not. When you're looking at an eclipse, you're looking at it high in the sky, and when the sun is high in the sky, it's shining usually at full brightness. And so with that, you need to have one of those special camera filters that will knock because again, the sun is 400,000 times brighter than the full moon. So you're going to need to diminish the light of the sun by about 400 times.
But are you talking about taking a picture with the 35 millimeter camera? Or with an iPhone?
Well, that's the way I used to do it.
Right.
Well, I mean, now they actually have these little devices that go over that little teeny tiny lens on the iPhone.
Right.
That is the equivalent of a solar filter. So you could do it that way.
All right.
It's just that this morning, initially at Christianopedia, really, I mean, all things considered, that sun, when it was just coming up above the horizon, again, it was too dim to use the filter because the light was not strong enough to penetrate the filter. But at the same time, when you tried to look at it visually with your eye, you couldn't really do that unless you squinted. So it was kind of like we were in like a no man's land, so to speak, of looking at the eclipse sun when it was low. Finally, when it got reasonably high above the horizon, like 10 or 15 minutes after sunup, then it was out of the haze, and then it got much brighter, and then you had to use those special filters to look at the sun. And by the way, both of my kids, my son's going to be 31 in October, and my daughter's going to be 28 in July or whatever. But I gave them glasses, eclipse glasses, and they both said, hey, they stunk. Both of them were having the same problem that we were having at the beach, in that if you tried to use the glasses when the sun first came above the horizon, you saw nothing because the sun was not bright enough to penetrate through the glasses. They had to wait. And of course, kids in these days, they don't have the patience. But if you waited like 15 minutes or so after the sun got high enough in the sky, then you could have used the glasses. But then they were off doing something else. So,
all right. Well, I guess that's it for tonight. We can wrap it up. It's been an interesting week with all these odd shows going on at 9:30. was new for me. I literally shut the show off and I crawled into bed. So not tonight though. I have time for a glass of wine and a bowl of cherries. I have that all
Well,
chilling in the
I'm never going to
in the
do what
fridge.
I'm never going to do what I did yesterday, which was number one. I did a spur of the moment, like around 12 o'clock. I thought I would do on my Joe Rayo Weather Channel a little primer as to how to look at the eclipse and little tips here and there. So I cut that. That was about a 20 or 25-minute Zoom feature. And then a couple hours later, I had the first of 3 consecutive library talks. I don't know if you've ever done this before, Joe. I thought, well, why not? So I was going straight on through into the evening, and that's why. And then there was the situation of I thought I would get to bed early because I knew I was going to get up at the crack of dawn, before the crack of dawn, for the eclipse this morning. And I told you off air why I was up until like midnight, because we were having all kind of craziness with that. But I was fit to be I was fit to be died by about midnight last night when I finally got into bed, knowing, of course, that my time in bed was only going to be for about 3 hours before the alarm was going to go off. So it's been a crazy week. Are we doing a show tomorrow night, or
No,
we've decided just
no.
no? All right.
I'll fire off a memo to Mr. Ruben Fairchild about that. Bill Rogers
Oh,
asks.
we just found us. We found something out about Mr. Ruben Fairchild on the chat board, that he hates Janice Hoff. It's so now let's see. He hates Janice Hoff. He hates Rich Hoffman. He hates Craig Allen. I'd like to know, Mr. Ruben Fairchild, will you ever post on the chat board a weather forecaster or forecasters, namely those with first names that start with J, that you like?
I think he did say on one that he's cool with us, but he can't understand. He can't grasp. He hasn't grasped yet that we tend to go with the flow because of our schedules.
Yes. All right, so we'll cut this nonsense out tonight, and we'll be back with coffee with Joe and Joe, and maybe even Mrs. Rayo with her cooking segment on Sunday morning, I guess.
Yes, and that will be on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we will see everybody then. The weather looks relatively quiet going into the weekend, so it's not as if anything's going on tomorrow or Saturday. So you know what? Enjoy it, okay? And we will see you on Sunday. And thanks again for the chairman hitting Super Chat tonight. Very generous of you, and
so
most
much.
Appreciated. Okie doke. See you Sunday.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Night, everybody. Oh,
Goodbye.
and thank you, Christinapedia, for the wonderful pictures. My buddy Harry McMaster from high school, your pictures were great too. Thank you. I know I used them before asking you, but you shared them on Facebook and I reshared them, so I assumed you would be okay with it. Anyway, see you guys on Sunday. Good night, everybody.
Bye.